Palestine Liberation Army has made a surprising move in response to the ongoing hostilities between Hamas and Israel. In Gaza, members of the Palestine Liberation Army have encircled members of the Hamas group. They are getting closer and closer to being surrounded by Hamas's forces. The Israeli Defense Forces have issued a warning to the residents of Gaza ahead of an impending ground attack that will be launched against the region. People poured out of their homes and onto the streets of Gaza, many of them carrying expensive goods. The people who had to flee Gaza City formed massive lines in the streets as they left the city. Some people have made the decision to remain in Gaza. In spite of these warnings, the majority of Palestinians continue to disagree with Hamas's plan to attack Israel. As a direct consequence of this, the vast majority of Palestinians living in the city would rather leave than continue to support Hamas. However, the Palestinian people do not support the extraordinarily tough program that Hamas leadership is pursuing, so they do not have the support they need. After the conflict with Israel, Hamas militias resorted to stealing because they were unable to obtain the necessary supplies through normal means and hence had no choice but to resort to theft. Hamas kidnapped hundreds of Palestinians, the majority of whom were indigent, and forced them to join the group. People who refused to fight when they were ordered to were subjected to physical punishment. The Palestinian Authority's level of tolerance came under scrutiny when members of the Hamas militia refused to allow Palestinian residents of the city to leave. Before beginning its bombardment on Gaza, the Israeli military issued a warning to Palestinians living in the city to evacuate. However, Hamas militia members blocked the exits to the city with trucks and buses and refused to let anybody leave. It was already too late by the time Israel started its air attacks on Gaza. They came too late. Palestinians were angry because Hamas fighters ignored their appeals to let them leave the city and instead refused to allow them to leave. After the conflict between Hamas and the Palestinian people had subsided, the Palestinian president gave an extraordinary statement to the Palestinian people. Hamas is not a legal representative of the Palestinian people, contrary to what Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has declared. Instead, the Palestine Liberation Organization is the official representative of the Palestinian people. After that, I started to grow interested in what was going on. The Palestine Liberation Army, which is the armed wing of the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, issued a statement declaring that it had made the decision to confront Hamas and was taking the first steps to eject Hamas troops from the Gaza Strip. PLO leaders with years of experience in the military are among the hundreds of reservists who have been called back into active duty. In the village of al-Muzatar, located in the Gaza Strip, Palestinian Liberation Army soldiers and Hamas terrorists engaged in their very first battle against one another. After the PLO forces invaded Hamas-controlled al-Muzatar, there was a battle between the Hamas militia and the Palestine Liberation Army forces that lasted for an hour in this town. During the conflict between Hamas militias and Palestinian forces, it has been reported by regional sources that a Hamas army installation sustained significant damage. In the course of these conflicts, more than 60 Hamas soldiers who were defending the police station were killed. When al-Musaddar was seized by the Palestine Liberation Army, the local Palestinian civilian population was given permission to evacuate the city. Reports indicate that thousands of Palestinian hostages held by Hamas have escaped the town and are heading in the direction of the south. How confident is the Palestine Liberation Army that it will be able to defeat the Hamas militia? The Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, was established in 1964 as a response to a rift in the political leadership of Arab countries. At the time, Gamal Abdel Nasser was the president of Egypt, and he provided the organization with his full support. Soon after, Arab regimes built military academies to educate Palestinians for a future of resistance. The Palestine Liberation Army, PLA, was organized as a direct response to these institutions. During the course of the conflict between the Palestinian Liberation Army and the Hamas organization, Israeli tanks began to amass close to the border. The Israeli military has decided to postpone its ground invasion of Gaza, which was previously planned. It is generally agreed upon that the combat between PLO forces and Hamas is the initial step in Israel's ground campaign. On the other hand, there has been a recent uptick in attacks against Israel, with Hezbollah in Lebanon ratcheting up its strikes on Israel from within Lebanon. At a distance of 2 kilometers inside Lebanon's border, the Israeli army demanded that the civilian population evacuate. The Hezbollah group is continuing to attempt to enter Israel from the neighboring country of Lebanon. The Israeli army has implemented all possible safety measures in order to stop members of Hezbollah from entering the country. Even though Israel has made it abundantly obvious that it will destroy Lebanon, the Prime Minister of Lebanon, Najib Mikati, stated in a statement that there is no purpose in going on an adventure near the Israeli border and launching jihad. Mikati made this statement in light of the fact that Israel has made it abundantly clear that it will destroy Lebanon. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is furious about the growth of a substantial Hezbollah danger in the country's north, which is occurring at the same time when mutual deconflicts between Israel and Hamas are continuing. Officials in the Israeli leadership have dropped a number of indications that are quite suggestive that they are planning to wage war on Lebanon. Attacking Israeli border outposts in Lebanon is one of the goals of the Hezbollah movement, which attempts to cause Israeli military harm. As part of the military preparations for the impending conflict, Israeli forces have created a buffer zone along the border with Lebanon that is 4 kilometers wide. It appeared for a very long time that Iran would come out ahead financially as a result of the prolonged tension that existed between Israel and Iran. Is it possible that Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran, will attack Israel? Following an announcement made by the Israeli army, the population of 28 border towns and colonies would be uprooted and moved away from the border with Lebanon. As part of this evacuation, Israeli nationals who are currently living in places that are close to the border with Lebanon would be relocated to hotels and guest homes in sections of the country that are more secure. The Israeli government will, according to an article published in Haaretz, pay for everything. Recent events have brought to the forefront Hezbollah's repeated warnings that it will launch a catastrophic attack on Israel. According to the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, Hezbollah recently asserted that it was preparing a major operation against Israel and that Iran had purportedly provided the organization with orders. The prospect of Hezbollah opening up a second front against Israel is causing widespread concern among military experts. According to the opinions of some experts, a conflict of this nature may involve even major powers like the United States and China. Tzachi Hanegbi, Israel's national security advisor, has made it abundantly clear that his nation will annihilate Lebanon if it becomes necessary to do so. If the Hezbollah movement, which is supported by Iran, attacked Israel from a second front, Hanegbi issued a warning that a full-scale war in the Middle East was a distinct possibility. After hearing these statements made by Tzachi Hanegbi, United States Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin encouraged Israel to refrain from attacking Hezbollah at this time. At the request of the United States Defense Minister, a spokeswoman for the Israeli army has issued a statement. An official of the Israeli army stated, "Our job is to combat Hamas," adding that the nation was prepared to respond to any potential threat from Hezbollah. However, a spokesperson for the Israeli military has declared war by saying, "If we see the need, we can attack anywhere in the Middle East." This statement is a declaration of war.